I truly rejoice at the launch of this very, very precious piece of work, the social, emotional, and ethical curriculum launched by His Holiness earlier this morning. A curriculum that offers both teachers and students with skills that empower them with the resilience to be able to navigate through our tumultuous inner and outer worlds. An education that is able to build in the constituents of well-being,
तो जो शिक्षा का अर्थ है जो कि प्रभावित कर सके,
insight, and
ज्ञान
purpose.
दे सके, कुछ उद्देश्य हो,
Foundational building blocks that enable and facilitate other building.
और जो कि ऐसी बिल्डिंग हो
An
जो
education
कि दूसरों
that
का
would
भी
work
बनाने में
on
काम करे,
developing these faculties would be an education par excellence.
और ये जो शिक्षा है
Creating a classroom where the emotional tone is different.
तो क्लासरूम में
Teachers and
इमोशनल टोन को
students
बना पाना अलग होता
co-creating
है,
a classroom culture.
और शिक्षक
But
और
for
विद्यार्थियों
that to
को
happen,
कोई एक सामंजस्य
the
बनना
need for
चाहिए.
teachers to first be able to embody the practices and
तो
skills
सबसे पहले
that
ऐसे
they
टीचर
wish
की
their students to
आवश्यकता है
emulate
कि जो खुद
is
इसका
vital.
अभ्यास कर सके.
As we heard earlier this morning,
जैसा कि सुबह
children
सत्र
learn
में
by observing adults,
सुना था कि बच्चे
sharing and
बड़ों को देख करके सीखते
experiencing
हैं,
of this innate awareness together,
और ये
rather
जो
than the
innate
teaching of it, is what is valued
क्वालिटी है वो
in
साथ
C
आनी
learning.
चाहिए. और सी लर्निंग
Our afternoon
से क्या हमें
session
सीखने को
aims to
मिलता है,
provide a window into such a classroom.
और
A
दोपहर का
classroom
सेशन जो
where
है
the need
कि
to know oneself
एक
is the
प्रकार के
foundational
क्लासरूम के बारे
building
में,
block
क्लासरूम में
and
किस
is
तरह
embodied
से
by both
चर्चा
teacher and
करनी चाहिए,
student.
उसकी
A
के
classroom
बारे में.
with an unshakable core, aware, spacious,
जिसमें
present,
जैसा कि पैनल में
and
कहा गया
free.
है कि
In this
के कार्य में
volatile,
कैसे
ever-changing
लाएं.
world, an education that focuses on building inner resilience equips today's generation of kids with the skills to deal with the issues of our time in a more responsible and compassionate manner, a sense of purpose that we know today to be fundamental to our well-being. Our panels this afternoon will bring to attention
तो
this
इस
creation of a
दोपहर का जो
culture
पैनल है,
within schools,
तो स्कूल्स में
a
कैसे
testimony
टेंशन लाया जा
of teacher
सके,
embodiment, students building competencies of increased resilience, but most of all, it will provide us who understand and are convinced of the need for educating the heart, a window, the transition from understanding to experience, the experience of both educators and students who are self-aware, embodiment in action. I'd like to welcome on stage the learning team for the first
सबसे पहले सी
session,
लर्निंग टीम
panel
को
discussion.
बुलाना चाहूँगी.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Tyrolyn Frazier, and I'm one of the
मैं
C
Dr.
Learning
Tyrolyn Frazier.
team members.
तो मैं
And I'm
भी
going
इस
to talk to you a little
टीम
bit today
में,
about some of the work that we're doing on the international stage.
तो हम लोग यूनाइटेड स्टेट में जो कार्य कर रहे हैं उसके बारे में आपको दिखाना चाहूँगी, बताना चाहूँगी.
Okay. But before we get into the specifics of that, I want to ask a question.
तो उसको शुरू करने
What
से
is success?
पहले आपसे क्वेश्चन
What is
करना
success?
चाहती हूँ
We
कि
all want
सफलता क्या है.
We
हम
want it for
सभी चाहते हैं कि हमें
ourselves.
सफलता
We want
मिले,
it for our students.
तो अपने
But what does
लिए
it truly mean?
विद्यार्थियों के लिए सफलता चाहते हैं. आखिर को ये सफलता क्या है.
I believe this poem by Bessie Anderson Stanley
तो
says it best.
बेसी
So what I'm going to ask you
स्टैनले
all to
के
do,
कविता है उसके हिसाब से करना
take a
चाहते
deep
हैं.
breath, plant your feet,
तो पहले
and I invite you to open your hearts
तो मैं
and lower
आपसे
your eyes and listen.
अनुरोध करता हूँ कि इस कविता को सुने,
To love people,
लोगों से
to
प्यार
laugh
करना
often,
और
and
बार-बार
love
हंसना
much,
और ज़्यादा
to
से
win the
ज़्यादा स्नेह
respect of
करना,
intelligent people,
तो
and
ऐसे
the
जो
affection of
अनुभवी लोग
children,
उनका सम्मान करना
to earn the approbation of honest critics,
और जो
and to
होने से
endure
हैं
the
उनके
betrayal of
लोगों
false
को
friends,
जो
to
उनका प्रोत्साहन
appreciate
करना
the
चाहिए,
beauty, and to find the best in others,
तो
to give
दूसरों में
oneself,
अच्छाई को ढूंढें,
to leave the world a better, whether by a healthy
तो
child, a
चाहे एक
garden
छोटा
patch, or a
जो
redeemed
हेल्दी
social
बच्चा हो
condition,
या
to
गार्डन पैच
to have played and laughed with enthusiasm,
जो
and to
कि
have sung with
हंसता
exultation,
हो
to
पूरी
know
मेहनत के साथ
one,
साथ
even
रहे,
one life has
ये
breathed through
जैसे
you
कि
because you have
एक
lived.
एक जीवन के लिए भी अगर ऐसा
That
कर सकें
is to have
तो
succeeded.
वही वास्तव में एक सफलता है, जैसा कि यहाँ कहा गया। तो
We all
ये
know this.
जैसे
Viscerally, we
एंडरसन
feel the
स्टैनले
truth
ने
of this.
ये कविता लिखी है।
We also feel the weight of it. We want all of us to flourish
हम सभी
with an
लोग
abandonment of spirit.
करना चाहते हैं, फ्लोरिश होना चाहते हैं,
But the reality is much closer to this.
लेकिन इसकी जो रियलिटी है वास्तविकता हटकर
How did you
होती
do
है।
it? I don't know.
कैसे आप
I guess
करते
the
हैं?
flight or fight mechanism kicked in, and well, in
तो ये
case you
कह रहे
haven't
जो
heard,
बीच में
Bob,
बाद में
I'm a penguin.
या पास में
We
एक
don't
बड़ा
fly.
जो पेंगुइन पड़े हुए उसको कैसे आपने गिराया, बॉम्ब से गिराया, बॉम्ब से जो
Our
हुई है, कैसे किया।
children are living in a world
तो को कह रहे हैं कि हम
that
तो
fills them
उड़
with the
नहीं सकते, हम
illusion
तो
that they are
पेंगुइन हैं।
trapped in a ring, where in order for them to win, the other
अगर
has
एक
to
रिंग
lose.
में छोड़ दे तो कोई जीतने का
It is this
मतलब नहीं
false
होता है।
reality of a zero-sum game that they can't seem to break out of. That is what we want to change.
तो इस चीज़ को हमको बदलना है।
We want to move from this to the truth that we felt
तो जो सत्य
with
है उसकी
Bessie's
तरफ
words.
हमें जाना है।
That is what we want.
तो यही चीज़ें हैं।
And that is why C Learning was
तो
created.
इसी वजह से सी लर्निंग प्रोग्राम
The C Learning program
बनाया
is
गया
the
है।
result of a global endeavor
तो
that
ये
exists
सी
only because
लर्निंग
of
प्रोग्राम
partnerships
है
around the
तो
world.
पूरे दुनिया भर में कैसे जा सके, लोगों को
Our
लाभ कैसे
vision
हो सके।
as a program is to approach this visceral understanding of success at the foundational level by providing educators and students with the tools, the classroom support, and the communities that can foster this shared understanding. It is to develop a program that services both students and educators from the moment they start their educational journey through their formative developmental years.
तो फ्रेमवर्क के हिसाब से कि पहले
It is
तो
to
उनको
create
बनाना चाहिए,
a
फिर करिकुलम की
compassionate and
आवश्यकता होती
ethical
है,
world for
और
all.
तीसरी बात जो एजुकेटर
And the way we are doing
उनकी
that
तैयारियां और उनको मदद कैसे
is through a
करनी चाहिए,
framework. The
फिर
framework
रिसर्च
is what
और
we have
पार्टनरशिप।
used to develop the curriculum.
तो फ्रेमवर्क वही होता
The
है कि जो कि
curriculum
करिकुलम जो
is the
व्यवस्था
thing we
है
are
उसको
providing
कैसे बनाना
to support
चाहिए।
students and educators in the classroom
तो फिर
to
इसके बाद
cultivate
करिकुलम
the
ऐसा हो
skills of
कि
awareness,
क्लासरूम में
compassion, and
जो
engagement,
टीचर्स हैं उनको
and
प्रमोट
through
कर उनको
educator
सिखाया।
preparation and support.
तो उसके बाद
And we do this through the development of
और
our
इसको
online
कैसे
training
सपोर्ट किया
platform
जाए तो ऑनलाइन की तरह
and
से
through our
कर सकते
workshops and other
हैं,
supporting
व्यक्तिगत
materials
कर
that we
सकते हैं,
continue
जो
to
कि
try to
वर्कशॉप
grow and
करके भी
develop.
लोगों को सिखाया जा सकता
And of
है।
course, it is through research.
हाँ, फिर उसके
And
बाद
this is
रिसर्च की
something
भी
that is an
आवश्यकता होती है।
ongoing endeavor.
तो
But this is
ये
only possible
जो एक तरह
with
की
our partnerships
निरंतरता
around
की
the
आवश्यकता
world.
होती है।
Now, His Holiness says that this program must reach every child in the globe. And the only way that we can do that is through partnerships with all of you. It's going to be diverse. It's going to look different.
तो हालांकि अलग अलग
But
हो
this
सकते
is
हैं,
what
ना
we are called
दिख
to do.
सकते हैं, लेकिन हम सभी को ये पार्टनरशिप इत्यादि करने की आवश्यकता
I just
होती
want
है।
to take a moment and get into a little bit of science, just for a second. Okay. So when we say we want to reach every child in the globe, that's not hyperbole. That is actually what we want to do, but it is not impossible.
जो हम करना चाहते हैं वो कर
This
सकेंगे,
is a slide
असंभव
from
नहीं।
cognitive science.
तो आप देखिए
It is a study of social cognitive neural networks. Okay?
जो
Social
स-
cognitive networks.
जो
And what we see
सामाजिक
here is
ज्ञान
that
है
if
उसके
you look
बारे
at a
में स्टडी है।
system, okay,
तो जब आप इस सिस्टम
those
को
little red
देखें
dots
तो इसमें
represent an
लाल
individual in that
कणों
system.
को देख
And the
सकते हैं,
individual there
ये
is an
व्यक्तिगत हैं।
individual that holds a belief strongly. And what we see is that over time, if we have 10% of the population within that system that
अगर
holds that belief strongly,
10% भी
over
आबादी
time,
इसमें आ जाए
we we can change
तो निश्चित
the
रूप से हम
entire
समय
system such that
के
the
अनुसार
minority
सिस्टम को बदल
view
सकते हैं
becomes the majority.
और
So
जो
here's the
अल्प
thing. We don't have to
विचार हैं
change
वो
everybody on the globe,
बहुतायत
but
में हो
we
जाएंगे।
do have to change 10%. So, what have we done on the international stage?
तो हमने आखिर के जो अमेरिका में क्या किया
Over the last 2 years, we've been very
पिछले
busy.
2 सालों से
We have educated over 600
हम लोगों ने
educators through our
600
workshops, and we've gotten
लोगों को
feedback from
ज्ञान
over
दिया।
150 of those.
तो उनमें से
These are the different locations that some of our
तो
trainings
जैसे
and
आप
workshops
देख
have
रहे
been
हैं
completed in.
तो अलग-अलग जगह
In
अटलांटा
the
जॉर्जिया
US and in Germany and
यूरिया
India and
और
many other places
इंडिया
around the world.
धर्मशाला इत्यादि जगह पर भी इसको काम
Oops.
किए हैं।
And what the educators are saying is pretty promising.
तो ज़्यादातर जो है वो लोग अक्सर
About
इसके
78% of the
premise
educators
जो
rated
78%
student engagement with the
की
learning experiences in the
जो
curriculum
expert
is very
educator
high.
हैं,
And about
वो
90% of the
उसके
reporting
साथ
educators
रहते
were
स्टूडेंट
able
के
to
साथ
prepare
और
the
90% जो
lessons in a
हैं
timely manner,
तो सी
15 to 30
लर्निंग
minutes.
को सुनने या फिर उस पर अप्लाई करने की कोशिश कर
Additionally,
रहे हैं। उसके साथ साथ
About
और देखें
89 believe that
तो
C was
89
likely or
लोग
very
मानते हैं
likely to help improve their
कि
students'
सी
focus and
प्रोग्राम
attention.
वाकई बच्चों
It
को
was likely or
ध्यान
very
दिलाता
likely to
है।
help build
87%
resiliency in
मानते
their
हैं
students,
कि
and
बच्चों में
likely or very
रेजिलियंसी
likely
को
to
उत्पन्न करते
increase
हैं।
kindness
82
and
लोग ये
compassion
मानते हैं
among
कि
their students.
तो काफ़ी
We also
हद
see that
तक
C was likely
जो
or
कि
very
करना
likely to
और
help
मैत्री
increase
को
ethical
बढ़ावा देते
engagement
हैं।
or
82%
action.
लोगों का ये
So
मानना
what
है
we're seeing is
कि
that we're
जो
getting a
उनका
very
नैतिकता
positive
में
response
एंगेजमेंट
from
है
these
वो
initial
कार्य में
piloted
वो बढ़
studies.
जाता है।
Some of the educators are saying
तो एजुकेटर क्या कहते हैं
that the students
तो
had a much easier time thinking of a moment of
तो
compassion.
बच्चे लोग ज़्यादा समय पा
This
पाते
had been
हैं
difficult
करुणा के बारे में
in the
सोच पाते
beginning,
हैं।
but
हालांकि
was much
शुरुआत
easier
में ज़्यादा
now.
मुश्किल होता है लेकिन
So
बाद
when
में
we start to
धीरे-धीरे
talk with some of the
ठीक हो
educators, we're
जाता
seeing
है।
their journey as they're learning how to use the curriculum and as their students continue to be exposed to it, we see change. It is not one shot. It happens over time.
तो ऐसा नहीं है
But
कि
that's what we
तुरंत हो वो हमेशा
At the
होते
beginning of the
रहते हैं।
year, this step-in, step-out experience was great for me
तो
to
आप शुरुआत में
identify
देखें कि इस
and
तरह की
observe
घटनाएं
all
होती हैं
students. It
शुरुआत
was a
में
great and quick assessment
इसके
to
अनुभव भी काफ़ी अच्छे रहे
understand
हैं
more about my
और
students.
अपने
So we
स्टूडेंट्स के
see
बारे
that
में
as
भी
students are engaged
काफ़ी
and
कुछ
as
सीखने को
educators are
मौका
engaged,
मिला।
they're learning from each other and they're changing
एक
together.
दूसरे से सीख सकते हैं एक दूसरे इंटरचेंज कर सकते हैं।
I'm going to introduce
यहाँ
my
कुछ
colleague,
उदाहरण दे रहे हैं।
Sandu Sample, and he's going to tell you a little bit more about some of our endeavors around the world.
Good afternoon and Tashdile. My name is Tsundu Samphel and I'm the International Program Coordinator of C Learning. It is my honor to present few examples of the kind of
तो मैं
collaborative
यहाँ पर आपको
efforts that are taking
जो किस
place
प्रकार
in
के
different
अनुभव रहे हैं
countries
उसके उदाहरण
across the
देना
world
चाहूँगा।
to promote C learning.
सी लर्निंग को
We have to remember that the schools and institutions that are involved in the C
हमें
learning
जानना
efforts
चाहिए कि जो भी
are
स्कूल्स
functioning with a
और
common
कॉलेज
belief.
इंस्टीट्यूशन जो
Here,
भी
I would like
इससे
to quote
जुड़े
His
हुए हैं
Holiness's remark from a talk
यहाँ
that he
परम
gave
पावन
at Emory
दलाई लामा जी
University
ने
in October 2007.
2007 में अक्टूबर में जो
That
वक्तव्य दिया उसको
education
मैं बताना चाहता
is
हूँ।
an indispensable tool
तो
for the
जो
flourishing
शिक्षा
of
है
human well-being
मानवता
and
के
the
विकास के
creation
लिए
of a just
सबसे
and
बड़ा
peaceful
हथियार
society.
है। इसके द्वारा ही जो
In the
शांतिमय
US, C
विश्व
learning
बन
is
सकता है।
implemented
यूनाइटेड
at a
में
dozen
इससे
schools, both private
सैकड़ों
and public.
दर्जनों
The extent to
स्कूल्स
which
में
it is
किए गए
implemented
प्राइवेट और सरकारी
varies
दोनों में
amongst the
इसका
schools.
लागू किया
For
गया।
example, in Aspen, Colorado,
जैसे
at Aspen High
कोलोराडो
School,
में आसमान हाई
C
स्कूल
learning
में
is
देखें
offered to all students
तो सी
through its experiential
और
education
जो कि
program.
अपने
It is
अनुभव
a
के अनुसार
one-week program at the
उनको
beginning of a
दिया गया।
semester
तो
that
पहले
is followed by
एक सप्ताह
regular
कार्यक्रम
meeting
रहा
during the
फिर
year.
उसके बाद धीरे धीरे लगातार
Each learning
मुलाकात करते
experience
रहें
or
तो हर
lesson is
अनुभव से
fine-tuned to the
हर
students'
शिक्षा
needs by
से
a committee,
तो उसको
which
एक
then
कमेटी
presents that to the staff
बना
before
करके
the
पाया
staff
गया
implements the C
कि
learning
किस प्रकार
curriculum.
से
Another school where C learning is being
लाभ हो
implemented
सकता है।
is
दूसरे
Woodward
जगह
Academy,
देखा जाए
which is the
वुडवर्ड एकेडमी
largest independent school
जो
in the
कि
continental
अपने
USA.
अमेरिका में सबसे बड़े प्राइवेट
Woodward
स्कूल्स हैं।
Academy in
तो वुडवर्ड
Atlanta
एकेडमी
offers two
अटलांटा पर्स
standalone
में,
year-long C-learning electives
तो उसमें
in the
2
middle
सालों
and
से
high schools.
मिडिल और हाई स्कूल में
C-learning is also infused
किया।
into other disciplines such as visual art courses,
और इसके अलावा विजुअल
math, and
और
English.
मैथ और अंग्रेजी इत्यादि को भी करके देखा।
Closer to home in India,
फिर अगर
we
भारत
have
में देखें
Tonglen Charitable School.
तो तोंगलेन
I'm sure
स्कूल
you
में
all
भी
have
देखें,
seen the inspiring video this
तो
morning,
आपने सभी ने सुबह
where
वीडियो
the
देखा
secular
था।
ethics and C-learning have become a very crucial part of their
तो यहाँ
academic
सेकुलर
program.
एथिक्स और
C-learning, because
और
of
C-learning
its
program
secular
यहाँ
and
पर है।
ethical nature, is seen as an ideal way to cultivate ethical literacy for Tonglen School, whose students come from a diverse
तो ऐसे
social and
स्कूल जहाँ
religious
पर
backgrounds.
जो पे अलग अलग
It initiated its pilot
स्थानों से आए हुए
project
बच्चे
to
हैं,
provide holistic education in 2015,
तो जो पूर्व
using
से
the 10 competencies of
2015 से
secular
शुरुआत किया
education,
गया,
which
जहाँ पर
is a
सेकुलर शिक्षा,
precursor to C-learning.
तो जो कैसे
Tonglen
C-learning
is a boarding school and therefore was able to find more opportunities
तो एक
for
प्रकार
students
से
to explore the
मतलब
various
एक
aspects of
उभरता हुआ
C-learning,
स्कूल है,
be
जहाँ
it
उम्मीद बन
its
रही है कि
concepts
और
or
जगह से
practical
भी
skill
लोग
development
उसमें स्किल्स
through
डेवलपमेंट हो सकें,
activities,
सीख सकें।
projects, and such. Those who have heard about Tonglen this morning,
जिनने
I'm
सुबह
sure, are
इस स्कूल
inspired
के बारे में
by how
सुना होगा,
close
तो
it captures
इंस्पायर भी
the
हुए
sentiment of
कि
Bessie
किस
Stanley,
प्रकार से ये
who
बहुत ही
says,
नज़दीक है।
to
बेसी
know
स्टैनले ने
even
भी
one
कहा
life
था,
has breathed
तो उन्होंने कहा था
easier
कि एक
because you
जीवन
have
को
lived,
प्राप्त
to
करना,
leave
सांस
the world
लेना
a better,
कितना आसान है।
whether by a
तो
healthy
अच्छा होगा
child,
कि आप
a garden
एक
patch,
अच्छे
or a
विश्व की
redeemed
रचना
social
करके
condition.
जाएं।
C-learning has also become a of Central Tibetan
जो
administration.
तिब्बती
The Tibetan schools have reinvigorated their efforts to provide ethical education, initially by using the 10 competencies and later shifting to C-learning curriculum. Although schools vary in their approach and in their time allocation, they all are promoting the value of ethical intelligence and
स्कूल
ethical
हैं,
discernment
तो वो वहाँ
and
पर
making them
जो
essential part
एथिकल
of children's
इंटेलिजेंस ज्ञान
life.
है उसको
In
कैसे
the
बढ़ाया
schools
जा
where the day
सके।
begins with
तो
the
जैसे ही
recitation
स्कूल
of
प्रारंभ होता
may
है
all living
तो
beings
उसी
have
समय
happiness
यही
and the
प्रेयर के
causes of
साथ होता है कि
happiness.
सारे के सारे
May all
सब
living beings
जो
be
है
free
कि
from
दुखों
misery
से
and the
मुक्त
causes
हों
of misery.
और उनके जो
In
वजह
such
है
a
उससे
school
मुक्त हों।
culture, integration of C-learning in its school curricula is but a natural next step. I'm sure you will hear more about this from the students in
तो
our
मुझे
student
पता
panel.
है कि आप और ज़्यादा सुन
One new
सकते हैं।
development that gives us immense joy and hope is the conduction of C-learning pilot program in Jordan recently, and the
जॉर्डन में
enthusiasm with
कार्य
which
जो करके हमने देखा है
the
उससे भी
introductory
रिजल्ट आए,
workshops of
जहाँ पे
the
एक बात उनको
C-learning
परिचय ही कराना था,
experiences and are developing understanding of personal awareness, identifying compassion for others, practice of grounding, and so on. You may hear about this in the teacher panel session from Yasmin Munna, who is one of our
तो
international
हम
program
यास्मीन
committee members.
मुन्ना को देख सकते हैं जो
I
हमारे
now
कमेटी
ask
मेंबर से हैं।
Dr. Tyrelyn Frazier to talk about C-learning efforts in
ट्रायल
some
एंड
other
फ्रेशर
regions
से
of the world.
अनुरोध करता हूँ कि बाकी की जगह के मैं भी इसके बारे में बताएं।
I'm going to quickly, I'm told that our time is getting short. So I'm going to quickly go through. We have efforts going on in German-speaking Europe, and they did some evaluations that were
German-speaking
immensely
Europe के बारे
helpful.
में
I'm going to move
बात
through
करना
these
चाह रहे
fairly
हैं।
a little bit. One of the things that I want to say is that when we talk about this need for sort of global partnership, foundational to C-learning and the C-learning framework in the curriculum is this idea of the system. And at the systems
जैसा कि
level,
बहन
we
ने बताया कि
understand
सिस्टम
that we need
और
to
आइडिया
cultivate an understanding of interdependence.
तो इसको हमें जो
We need to
इंटरडिपेंडेंट
recognize
एक
common
दूसरे
humanity
निर्भरता
and
और
ultimately
इसको पहचान
engage
जो मानवता है उसके
through
बारे
global
में
action.
और जो
And so
एक
this is
समुदाय
our
के रूप
expression
में
of that
भी या विश्व के
engagement.
रूप में भी किस तरह से हो सके।
Currently, we have been working all over the world,
तो इसमें
and we're
देख
so
सकेंगे
excited about what
कि
we've done,
कि हमने हर अलग
but
अलग
it's
जगह
not
पर
enough.
किया,
There are too many
लेकिन
places
फिर
in
भी
which we
देखा जाए कि
haven't
अभी
penetrated,
वो
we
पर्याप्त नहीं
haven't
है
reached.
और ज़्यादा
And so we want to
करने की
continue
आवश्यकता है।
developing out these partnerships as we move forward. And we want to continue having these conversations with you. And we want to go back to this
फिर उसके
question,
बाद
what is
आता है
success?
कि
I
सफलता
think
क्या
we're
है
coming to
और
a
इसको
space where we have
कैसे
a shared
प्राप्त किया जा सकता
understanding
है.
of what we mean by success that goes far beyond the academic rubric that we often look at. But how do we get there?
तो आखिर को जो सफलता है वो मिलती किस तरह से,
And this
तरीके
is
क्या
where I
हो
invite
सकते
all
हैं.
of you on our journey, because we have to figure this out together.
इस
And so
सफलता
what you're
को
going to
हम
see next
सभी
is you're going to see
को
panels
मिलकर
of
के प्राप्त
students
करना
and
है.
you're going to see panels of educators
इसके
who are
द्वारा
going to help you
आप
understand what
देखेंगे
it looks
स्टूडेंट्स के
like to
साथ
join
में
us in
पैनल होगा,
answering this
उनके
question of how do
सभी
we
को
get there. Invite my colleagues, Lindy Sedevendemi and Elaine
लिंडी
Miller-Karras, to come
सेंडरमैन
up
और मिलर कैरस को मैं
and talk
बुलाऊंगा
more. Thank
कि
you so
आप
much.
भी इसके बारे में विचार रखें.
Well, welcome. We are so excited that we get to introduce you to the youth panel. I mean, these are the children who are our hope for the future and our hope at this very present moment. My name is Elaine Miller-Karras,
तो अभी जो
and I am
बच्चों का पैनल
the
है,
co-founder and the
उसको मैं
executive
करेंगे.
director of the Trauma Resource Institute, and I
Trauma
am
Resource
so
Institute के
grateful
co-director
and
मैं
honored
हूँ.
that I was asked to be a consultant to Chapter 2 of this
मुझे
amazing
अच्छा लगा
program.
कि जो आज
So
का
I will
chapter
have
2
Lindy introduce. Oh, not
chapter
yet.
है,
Okay,
उसको
wait a
मैं
second.
कर सकूं.
Okay. Yes. So we are going to invite the children, the
तो अभी
young
मैं
people,
बच्चों
to
को
come up.
बुलाना चाहती हूँ
And
कि बच्चे आएं.
Oh, here they come. We met with them yesterday, and we had a lot of fun getting to know each other.
बच्चों से
And they
कल
had some
मिले
wonderful ideas,
और
too, about
उनसे-
how they wanted to start the session.
और
So
मैं
after
उनसे
Lindy introduces
किस तरह से
herself,
कार्यक्रम
we
को
have
करना
some fun
चाहते
in
हैं.
order.
उनसे बातचीत हुई.
Good afternoon. My name is Lindy Sedevendemi, and I'm the project coordinator for
तो
C
मैं
Learning.
लिंडा हूँ और C Learning के
We're really
project
pleased to have these
coordinator
students here from
तो
3 different
बच्चे
schools,
तो अलग 3 बच्चों
Tibetan
से
Children's
स्कूल से आए
Village,
हैं, TCV से आए,
Tonglen, and
Tonglen
Shamtala.
और
And they are
Shamtala
going
से आए
to
हुए हैं.
now do an activity with us to get us
तो बच्चे
all
लोग
ready,
activity करेंगे, आपके समक्ष
so we're in the
करेंगे.
OK zone. I guess I'll just say one more thing. Elaine and I just yesterday met all of these young people for the first time in person. And we were able to spend about 2 hours with
तो
them,
बच्चों से पहली
getting to know
बार
each other,
एक दूसरे से
talking
मिले
about what they've
और 2
enjoyed
घंटे
with C
उनके
Learning,
साथ
suggestions
बातचीत
they
किया.
have for us,
तो वो क्या
and
सीखे हैं,
a lot of
वो
other
suggestion
things.
क्या है.
And it just
अन्य
dawned on
चीजें
me
भी
that
उनसे
what we
सीखने
were
को
doing
मिले.
yesterday in our time getting to know these students was cultivating a caring environment for learning. And we couldn't do this
इससे
panel with
पाया
them here on stage if we hadn't taken the time to get to
कि
know
बच्चे
them
लोग क्या
yesterday.
सीखना चाह
So
रहे हैं.
I hope they're all
इसलिए
ready. And
तो
Elaine, are you
मैं
ready?
इतना
to
ज़्यादा
begin?
समय नहीं मिला
Okay.
तैयारी करने के लिए, लेकिन फिर भी उम्मीद करती हूँ कि कुछ अच्छे से सीखा
Y'all
होगा.
stand. And who's going to lead us? I know there's 2 of you that are leading us in this, so if I can have you come forward. Yes. Okay, are you ready? I'll help too. Okay, let's go. All right, go ahead. Okay, why don't I'm going to have you come over here, and we'll get that. Shall we have them stand up? Okay, we're inviting you to stand. We're going to invite everyone to stand. Okay, here's the mic. Okay. All
सभी
right.
लोग खड़े होंगे.
I'm going to, because you have to move your body. Okay, and we're going to invite you to follow their lead, because we're doing in the C Learning program in Chapter 2, one of the first lessons is to learn about sensations. And there's many
सबसे पहले जो
playful
बात
and
है
fun
कि जो
ways to do
sensation
that.
किस
And
तरह
then
से हैं.
also it has a secondary
तो इसमें बहुत सारे तरीके हैं जिससे कि आप
game,
सीख
doesn't
सकें.
it? Because it also
एक
can
तरह
help
का
us relieve
गेम
our
जैसा है,
stress when
तो
we're
उससे
in
हमारे
front
जो
of a few
तनाव
hundred
हैं वो
people.
कम हो जाते हैं.
So
तो आप
this is
लोग
why we
इतने
decided to do
कुछ
this.
सैकड़ों
All
लोगों के
right,
सामने
so
खड़े
let's
हैं,
get
तो आप
started.
तनाव कैसे दूर करेंगे.
Oh, look at the hands. All right, now what's next? Slow it down. And get it slow. Slower. Bring it down. And now the other side.
Okay, so what are you noticing now?
तो आप लोग क्या देख रहे हैं?
I noticed a deeper breath.
Now please take a deeper breath.
तो आप लोग गहरी सांस लें.
Anybody noticing warmth? How about heart rate? Oh, you want to do this? Okay, all right. So go ahead and lead. Okay, they're going to lead us in another sensory exercise. Putting our hands together really fast.
तो आप लोग
Really fast, 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 fast,
तेजी
fast.
से हाथ रगड़ें जैसे
And we're going to ask you to
बच्चे कर रहे
notice
हैं.
the temperature.
इससे क्या आपको लगता है कि जो टेम्परेचर
Should we stop?
रोकिए.
Okay, we're going to stop. All right. So is it warm?
कि
Warm?
आपको थोड़ा सा
Cool?
गर्मी
Is it
जैसा
cooling
एहसास हुआ.
down? So they're learning about sensory awareness.
तो इससे
All right.
जो कि
That's what they
आपकी
wanted you to learn.
कि
All
आपके
right, thank
जो
you.
वेदना है वो
Go
वेदना
ahead and
कैसे
sit
उत्पन्न
down.
हो ये आपको सिखाना चाह रहे थे.
You need to introduce yourself. Oh, you already did. Okay.
Yes. So what we're going to do next, thank you for participating in that. Thank you for leading. We have a few questions that the students have prepared some answers for. They're all the same questions that we talked about yesterday, so no surprises.
तो कुछ
And
क्वेश्चंस हैं जो बच्चे
ready to
इनका
begin?
Well,
जवाब
we
देंगे.
thought we might want to have them quickly introduce themselves, and we'll just pass the mic down, and they can say their name.
You can say your name and your school.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Samdul Hamo, and I'm representing my own school, Bidin School, as well as the rest of the Sambuddha Tibetan schools.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tenzin Shirup, and I'm from Lower TCV, and I'm representing on the behalf of the Tibetan school, yes.
Hello everyone, my name is Sinsin Pema and I'm representing the Tibetan schools. I'm from Lower TCV.
Hello everyone, my name is Nisha and I'm from Tonglen and I'll be representing Tonglen School.
Good afternoon, my name is Priyanshi Rawal and I am from Udaipur, Rajasthan.
My name is Neetu and I am from Tonglen.
Good afternoon, my name is Nanku, I am from Tonglen.
Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Rajni and I am from Tonglen School.
Hello everyone, I am Komal. I am from Tonglen School.
So we've prepared some questions, and they've already thought about the questions. So we're going to ask one of them to speak about a particular topic.
तो कुछ
And so,
क्वेश्चंस हैं तो
Nisha,
उनको
we would
बोला
like to
हुआ है.
ask
For maybe our kids or maybe even ourselves, then it will be a perfect future for us because in the end of the day, knowledge doesn't amount to much if you don't have any sense of compassion or kindness because those are the things which make you happy. And life is about happiness, I think. Thank you.
So the next question is for Neetu. Can we?
Here you go,
give her
Neetu. Here you go.
So what is an example of something you've realized as a result of sea learning experiences? So what are some of the things that you've learned by participating in chapter 1 and 2? What are the things that have given to your life?
I learned many things. We are going to slum community and making shelter, giving them food. Also by food, I also learned little bit cooking, not well, because I love cooking, but I didn't learn. So also in myself, I am also good leader, not so good, but little bit. And I lead my group very well. We make group and we distribute work and we work on it. And also, I learn responsible person, how it helped to make us responsible person by thinking of, instead thinking of us, we have to thinking others. That is important. Thank you.
Okay, the next question is for Nanku. Could you pass the mic? Thank you. Nanku, could you speak a little bit about how Sea Learning has helped you? What skills have you learned to do to take care of yourself? And could you share the example?
I share my personal experience. When I live in slum, on that time I am orphan. My mom is run away. My father is passed away. We 3 brothers live in slum. We have no food, no shelter. We are totally sad and demoralized. After when I come to Tonglen for study, my 2 brothers still live in slum. I couldn't pay attention to my study. I always think about my 2 brothers, how they live. When I read sea, I reduce my sadness. And I learn stations. Station number 9. When I touch the stations, I feel better. I able to put my attention to my school work. And then I feel better. But I still about thinking my 2 brothers. Thank you.
And thank you so much for that. And then Priyashi, you talked a little bit about some skills you learned to help yourself focus your attention more. Could you talk about your experience with that?
Yeah, I learned grounding, and I practiced grounding in my school by attending lectures, and grounding helped me in my studies also. Thank you.
So I can repeat that question. I don't think your mic is working.
Okay. Okay.
There you
so
go.
what did you gain from the experiences of chapter 1, the kindness chapter?
I feel like I've become more aware of everyone around me, like not just what I'm feeling, but what others are feeling as well. I feel like I can understand what others are going through, and I can see their perspective as well as my own. For example, if I ever get into an argument or a fight or something, instead of just thinking about how I'm feeling, how wronged I am, I can think about what the others are feeling, why they did what they did. So I feel like I've learned a lot from that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. And Rajni, we'd like to ask you that same question, if you can tell us what you gained from that chapter. Rajni.
Rajni?
Rajni?
She's down
Yes.
there at the
Right
end.
here. Do you have the mic here?
Okay. Yes. Go ahead, Rajni. The same question. What have you gained from the work that you did on the kindness project?
We are doing many projects on kindness, and we are develop our skills like as leadership, and cooperation, and help to all, and care about another as well as and helping to others. That's all.
Thank you. So next one is mine. Okay. So the next one is, what activities did you and your classmates do during your kindness projects, and what did you gain from them? And what did others gain? So Neetu, would you like to start with that one?
Yeah, great.
We do many kindness project, like we bring street dog who are very in bad condition in our hostel and give her medicine, take to her hospital, giving food. But one lady who are staying outside in winter. In slum peoples, also we cleaning the environment of Dharamshala. By this, I gain the people was very happy if we are kind towards them, and we also feel happy. Happiness, no one, anybody nor wants suffering, troubles, and difficulties in life. And when we help in some any person in need, that's make very happy to that person. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kamal.
And Kamal,
Yes.
Kamal, could you answer the
also?
same question, please?
That we have kindness project and we make one shelter for one lady who's staying at outside. From that lady gain we gain happiness and learned our skills, and that lady was comfortably live in this shelter. And in that winter she is very
No?
Use that.
Okay. One of the things that's also exciting was the discernment that the children had in giving us feedback about what kinds of things could be improved about the Sea Learning program. And it's very heartwarming to see they have their own ideas about that. And Kamal had some ideas about what you shared with us about how the program could be improved. I think you were saying about maybe the rearranging of the chapters.
Yeah, in winter, the lady's husband are fighting with them, and after she's staying at a shelter, then he feels shame that we have home, then why she live in another home, and she feels sorry. That's improvement of kindness.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then I'll just toss this. Tenzin Pima, you also had some thoughts about how Sea Learning can be better, or what? Do you remember what we were talking about yesterday? Okay.
Should we give him the other? Yeah, the other mic.
Hello? I was thinking maybe it could be a little bit more consistent, because in our school we have an period every week, like every Saturday, but that too is too little for us, because after one session, maybe for 1 or 2 days, everything would be great. Like each student would be peaceful, there would be no disagreements between the classes. Everyone would be so patient and calm. But after some time passes, everybody gets back to normal. Everybody gets to the chaotic normal life. So I was wondering if we could have a little more classes, maybe once a week, maybe like 4 times, and a little bit more practicals.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Tenzin Pima. Tenzin Pima is bringing us into the discussion on implementation, which we will get into a little bit later in the program. I wondered about our time. Do we have any time for final comments? Okay, so I know a few of you wanted to respond different questions that you didn't get asked necessarily. So do any of you, I know Nisha would like to say something, and then if any of the rest of you would like to make any final comments, now is a good time for that.
I would like to speak on kindness. Why I think kindness is important, because as I have suffered, I have suffered hunger and my family is still suffering. So in the street, when we were hungry, when people used to give us food, we used to feel very happy. And also when Tonglen has given me education, so I think kindness can change lives. If Tonglen couldn't help me in education, so thank you. If I was not in Tonglen, I think I will be staying in slum, and I think I will be married, or mother of 2-3 children, because my friends have 2-3 children like same age, and I think kindness can change someone's life, a kind act. So as Tonglen did a kind act towards me, and I got benefited by them, and that's why I personally value kindness, very, very much, and I am very much interested to help. And as I am engaged with the Tonglen project, kindness project, so when we go to the slum community and when we do any kind act, so that feeling is very natural, that happiness, that the feeling comes is very natural, and I think we should be kind, because if kindness can change someone's life, I think we should be kind. And thank you, Tonglen.
You have time for one more comment? Yes?
Many people think that if we are kind, and if we do some kind thing, so we are not able to change the world as a kind city. But I explored that one action changed the world. Like our Guruji giving me an opportunity for education for my future bright. So it's one action of Guruji change our all community. Our relatives, friends also take their student in school. Instead of bagging and collecting rubbish, they also understand that the education is important. So I think we do small act, and one day we change the world.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And Samdal wants to respond in the same question.
So my answer sounds quite shallow compared to all of the other ones, but I would like to give it anyway. So I think at the moment, a lot of us suffer from not thinking that good about ourselves, and not thinking ourselves worthy of anything. And I think this is really wrong, but we're still doing it. The kindness chapter helped me in a way that I began to judge myself, not about how rich I was, or how good my study exams results were, or how beautiful people thought I was. I began to judge myself more on how many good acts I'd done today, or what kind of a potential I had for becoming a good person. Thank you.
Thank you. Tenzin, shut up.
Okay. I would like to share one experience of mine. So in my 7th grade, I got my left leg fractured, okay? So at that time, the school was going on, so I tried to attend my school with my fractured leg. So when I arrived at school, I was besieged, or in other words, I was surrounded by kindness, empathy, compassion from everywhere. So it seemed like my pain and suffering brought everyone's compassionate side. So that's what I've noticed. So I've also noticed one thing, that, compassion is something that comes to everyone naturally. Compassion comes naturally to everyone. So I've gained the knowledge that everyone is capable of becoming compassionate. So that's what I've learned. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Can we give...
Thank you. Go ahead. So what we'd like to just, please, I would like to give a standing ovation to
Yes.
these children. Don't you think that they deserve that?
Thank you. Thank you, students.
Should we ask them what they notice on the inside? Okay. So we have one more question to ask you, because we started with a sensory exercise, is we want to invite you to notice what you're experiencing on the inside after you have heard this incredible journey of these children. So just be aware. And what are you noticing? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. You can go ahead and step off the stage. Next up will be our teacher panel, so give us just a few moments to reorganize.
People keep thinking I have the answer. I don't know what's going on. No. You don't have the answers? Oh. Yeah, you're going to use these two mics. Is that okay? How many teachers are there? Same. Okay. Perfect. We should be good. Yeah. Excellent. Okay. Check. Check.
Yeah.
Check.
Ryder put it on me.
He can help you. Teachers who are part of the teacher panel, could you please come on the stage? I think they're already up there. Oh, they're already here.
There they are. Wonderful.
Actually, I should put this on this side.
उसके बाद हेलो मेरी आवाज आ रही है?
Yes.
So you're gonna set, yes, I'm gonna get for that second.
Morning. Thank you. Please come up, yes.
Oh.
One more seat there. Vivek, would you like to have a small chair, Vivek?
I'm fine.
Okay. So that was wonderful to hear from the students, wasn't it? Yes, we enjoyed that so much. So thank you again for all the students who participated. And thank you also for the teachers who helped also prepare their students to participate. We appreciate that very much. That was very helpful. So now we are here to hear from the educators themselves. And before we do introductions, I just want to briefly say that, of course, we do see learning for the children, right? Do we do it for the children? Do we do it for ourselves? Yes, we also do it for ourselves. And every educator here is engaged in C-Learning, doing it for both themselves and for their children. And although you will hear they come from different parts of the world, they have several things in common. The first thing they have in common is that they believe that compassion can be taught, and it's worthy to be taught, that we should spend our time doing that. They also have the patience to practice it both for themselves and teach it to the children with whom they work. They have the patience. So first, the belief in compassion. Second, patience. Thirdly, they have a deep love for their children.
And not just their children, but the children of the world. The children of the globe are one human family. And this is why we are doing this work in Sea Learning. So it's wonderful that we're going to be able to hear from them, having this known as our purpose and our passion. So my name is Krista Tanari, and I am part of the Sea Learning team at Emory University. And I'll let Vivek introduce yourself, and then we'll have the teachers introduce themselves.
Yeah, hi. I had a ready-made answer ready, but during lunch I had an identity crisis when someone asked, "Aap kaun hai?" Who you are? And I was thinking, such good context, right? The conference that we are in right now. And I think, I work in rural schools, and, we had a group of interns who visited us last year, and one of the interns asked, where can I find the toilet? And I said, figure out. So that's what we do. We kind of help students figure out what they want to learn, why they want to learn, and how they want to learn. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. So what we would like to do first is just do introductions for members of our panel. And we would like you to say your name and your title, and also what school and what country. So name 4 things: name, title, school, organization, or country. And then please pass the microphone down. Yes.
Hello, everyone. I am Tenzin Chedin, and I'm the headmistress of Mevin Suklak School in Dharamsala, and it's in India.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Komal and I'm from Tonglin School, that is in Dharamshala, and I'm a teacher of Tonglin, and the Tonglin School also is in Dharamshala. Thank you.
Namaste everyone, my name is Pooja Singh. I work with an organization that is Shamtale Foundation as a co-team member, and I come from Udaipur, which is in Rajasthan, India, of course. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Ridul and I'm from Tonglin, Dharamshala. I work in the capacity of project coordinator / teacher.
Hello everyone, my name is Rosalind Duff and I am representing Atlanta, Georgia, where I am a 3rd grade teacher and also the director of an aftercare program. And the name of my school is the Kendezi School, and that word Kendezi is a Bantu proverb that means it takes a village to raise a child.
Hello, I'm Megan Noonan from Aspen, Colorado, and I am a math teacher and also the C curriculum coordinator for Aspen High School.
My name is Barbara Yusi. I am from Switzerland, Bern, and I am a special education teacher.
Hello everyone, I'm Yasmin Muna. I'm from Jordan. I am an art teacher, and I've been a teacher for a while now, and I firmly believe that the Middle East is in need of a program like the Sea Learning program, and I'm hoping to get these experiences into Jordan, and I really hope that the Sea Learning takes flight in all the Middle East and other places around the world.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. I'm Kelsang. I represent Tibetan schools and I work in Tibetan Children Village School based in Dharamshala. Professionally, I'm a counselor and I am also a mentor for the Sea Learning responsible for my schools. Thank you.
Yeah. So, I would like to start by asking Pooja, can you briefly share about one hope or goal you have here for students and how Sea Learning you think will help you meet the goal? And try to be brief, and if you can share a story or example around that.
It's on.
Hello. Yeah. So when I was in school, nobody taught me, of course the teachers asked me to be attentive, but nobody taught me how to be attentive. And I think that's an important thing that needs to come to goals and hopes that I have for children. I don't ask my student to be attentive. I give them tools and methods by which they can be attentive and focus in their studies or academics. Apart from that, Sea Learning, the activities and experiences that we have in Sea Learning helps the child to be self-aware right in the school and take better decisions in life, form healthy relationships wherever they are, whether they are doctors, they become teacher, or they are politicians. Whatever value they'll take in the classroom with C-learning, I think they'll put it up in their professional life, and that will create a beautiful world, and they'll have healthy relationships. So I think that is the hope that I have with SEALs, who can take better decisions and lead a happy life with their families and friends. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Pooja. I would like Yasmin to build on this. Especially, we are talking about what success would look like. What do you think success would look like for your students in a classroom? What goal do you have for your own students?
All right. For my students, I would wish to see self-regulation of emotions. In today's world, we tend to focus a lot on the content of the curriculum, which is math, science, and the typical classroom routine. But what we tend to forget is how important our emotions are and how we can regulate them to actually bring about the change we want in humans, in a sense that they are beings of feelings, beings of full respect to the whole spectrum of a human being. As an art teacher, I just want to add that I see a lot of that in students' art. One question I do like to ask my students is, what makes you happy? And it's really funny that they have a better understanding of what makes them happy than we do. And I think that's really powerful. And I think the C-Learning program has helped me more than my students to learn what makes them happy and make me reflect on happiness as a virtue to work for, and also for myself to regulate my own emotions, because it is very difficult to be in a classroom, to see all these children and try to navigate their emotions as well as our emotions. It's a beautiful synergy that happens.
Thank you so much, Yasmin, for being so articulate. I would like to ask Komal, we are a country obsessed with engineering and doctors. What goal do you think you have for your own students?
Who are you asking?
For me, I have two goals for my students. Like my first goal is, short-term goal for my students, that our students are coming from very traumatized conditions. So my first goal is to provide them safe, secure, and learning environment as they feel the joy of learning. So it's my first short-term goal. And now my long-term goal, as all the teachers, my long-term goal is that to make them good human beings. So C-Learning helped me to address that goal. That as I am very fresh teacher, I recently joined Tonglen and start teaching. But I think that the first chapter of this C-Learning, Exploring Kindness, introduced us with this concept of common humanity. So this is the most important concept to know about students. If they know about the common humanity, then they have the more sense that, like us, if we are human beings, and it's not matter came from where. If it's not matter that we came from slum community or we are slum dwellers. So these concepts now in their mind, that if they are from common humanity, they know about common humanity, then this inferiority complex will reduce within them. So it's my long-term goal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think Krista would like to go ahead.
One thing to add? Sure, go ahead. Please do.
And I'll move on to the next question after you're done.
So I just wanted to add on what Komal said. I agree with what everybody has said about the goals. So I feel all the teachers or educators would have the same goal for their children, that is to make them a better human being. So if our goal is to make our children socially, emotionally, and ethically sound, I think C Learning provides us the tools. It shows us the way how to lead to that. So if becoming a better human being is our goal and destination, C Learning curriculum is the map that leads to that destination.
Thank you. Who believes that teaching your children to become better human beings is a wonderful goal of education? Yes. Okay, good. We share that. We share that goal together. Okay, the next question I want to ask, I'll direct it at Raz so you can pass the microphone to your left there. We're wondering if you can speak about the unique way that you have implemented C Learning in your setting or classroom.
I would love to answer that question. Thank you. I was actually thinking about that as I was coming up. So in Atlanta, I think here in India, I heard some children say they grew up in the slum. And in Atlanta, we would call that the hood. And so I teach a lot of kids that come from the hood, and they can be very resistant to something new. And so the way that I've implemented it, I teach it in my class, but I also teach after school with middle schoolers. And I've had a time with them because I kind of like asked them, but didn't ask them. I said, here, come be a part of this. And they were very resistant. Funny story, one of the classes, they bust in and they were like, Miss Duff made me come to this class. And I was very embarrassed. But at the same time, about a week or two later, they were asking for this. They were like looking for Miss Lindy, who helps me teach the class. And so we just want to gather a couple of kids in aftercare, and we give them some.
Thank you. Yes, you can pass it one place to your left.
Very collaborative approach. While I might be a coordinator to help with the curriculum, we do have a committee that helps fine-tune the lessons to our needs. And then through that, we are teaching the teachers and sort of coaching them and helping them develop as professionals so that they can then do the lessons with the students. We also think it's very important to collect feedback and adapt the lessons and make sure that their voice is heard in the class.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The next question,
Okay.
which is actually about sharing a story. Do you want to ask that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Mr. Satyarthi this morning shared, that we don't need to teach children compassion. We need to learn from them. And, I can't overemphasize, we really need to embody, how do you teach 2 + 2 = 4 if you don't know yourself? And, I would like to kind of ask Barbara, share a story, where you have felt that, C Learning has changed you as an educator or as an individual.
Yes, I think C Learning has changed me as a teacher. I can be a more authentic teacher. And the one example that illustrates that well is that one time when I was teaching, and I was kind of stressed in that room. There was a lot of kids asking me, Miss Husey, I have a question, and I was stressed already that day. And then there was another teacher in the room asking me questions, and I answered in quite a harsh way, I think. I said, I don't have time. And one of the kids, a boy, 8 years old, he came up to me and he's like, Miss Husey, I think you're stuck in the high zone. So we call it the storm zone, where you have a lot of energy. So he says, you're in the storm zone. And I said, oh, I am. I definitely am. And here's that little expert in front of me telling me that I have to make self-regulation. And he even suggested, Miss Husey, I have a good strategy. I invented it myself. And he said, breathe with me 3 times. Yeah, and we did. And in front of the class got really quiet. So we took 3 deep breaths, and it calmed me down. And also, I was just so glad, and I was so, it was just stunning, this compassion that he was showing. and this knowledge about self-regulation. So for me, C-learning is all about learning from my students. I can be more authentic. They can see that we're in the same boat. I'm not a teacher and they're the student. We're humans, and I go through the same struggles as they do.
Thank you so much. I think I can hear this story 100 times and feel inspired. Tenzin, do you have a better story to share? I'm just kidding. You can share any story that you like.
Yes.
So C-learning actually, now we call, but we started from what was called secular ethics in education. So my personal experience with secular ethics has had a deep impact on me as a person. So a story to share, just recently, so we had a emergency meeting with teachers. So there was a sort of a disagreement with one of the senior teachers and me regarding the need of a strict discipline in the school. And so the matter got a little more serious, and it happened that the teacher was not allowing me to clarify or express my opinions, but he kept on thrusting his viewpoints, and I got, like what Barbara, I think, said, in the high zone of the resilience. So I was not able to, because I kept on saying, please, let me say, and I was really hurt. I found that quite disrespectful in front of all the teachers. And being quite emotional, I was like, there were tears in my eyes, and how to handle myself in that situation. It was a hard time. So I left the meeting room, and I was literally crying in my office. And the thought that was going in my mind was to write a warning letter or an advisory note to the teacher and send a copy to the teacher. That might ruin his career. So I was stuck between two persons as the school head. So there was a conflict within me. So I had a hard time. But then there were other things at the school that kept me busy. So later in the afternoon, this teacher came to me to apologize for what he did, for his rude behavior. And I said, okay, that's okay. And I said, but you didn't set a good example in front of the teachers. And I thought I had forgiven him. But I was not able to sleep that night until 1:30 or 2 a.m. I had a hard time because my thoughts were still wandering over the meeting, the things that happened, how he behaved like this in front of me, in front of all the teachers to me. But then I started thinking, why am I thinking about all this? And I was in religion, His Holiness' face came in front of me, and then my position as a C-learning mentor. And I was like, no, I need to model this. I need to find a better solution rather than sending a warning letter or a memo. So that decision, I think, made me sleep. And the next morning, I talked to the teacher. So I felt like I haven't forgiven you completely. It was not 100% forgiveness that I granted you yesterday. So Tenzin, as a person, had forgiven you, but as the school head, I think I haven't forgiven you. So I made the thing all transparent, and I said, I forgive you now completely. And I said, maybe the self-respect, the feeling of I was hurt, and that was making me, that was putting me in a difficult situation. So I kept that ego aside. I kept my position aside, and I thought myself, as a person, the teacher like me, I shouldn't have act of forgiveness. That is something that we tell our children. So we also need to follow that. So I felt like I have modeled that as a SEAL mentor. I forgave him, and now I am a happy person. From that day, I was really, really happy and enlightened.
Thank you very, very much. That's a good place for me to say, if you open up any of the C-learning curriculum, the elementary version, the late elementary version, or the middle school version, you can choose any learning experience in any one of those volumes and use it with yourself or with your staff, with other adults with whom you work. What we have created, yes, it is developmentally appropriate for youth. We have written it for their level. But yet, at the same time, you know how the simplest teachings are the deepest teachings? When we distill it down to just the essence of what we want to learn, we've tried to do that with the curriculum so children could understand it. Sometimes like earlier we were speaking about children, your mind like a child, and how that can benefit us. You can use any of the lessons and activities in the curriculum with also your staff for staff training and apply that to yourselves, and you will be able to get the similar results of making realizations about compassion and all of these other things. So really would encourage you to explore that way, even if you don't have a group of children right now to work with. Please feel free to do that. So we have a final question to ask, and actually we have a different on that, and then we'll
Particular
get to our
topic,
last one.
like,
Yes, wonderful, thank you.
why I'm personally today in front of the whole large audience, why I'm sitting here, why I'm speaking about this particular topic on sea learning. I would like to share some experience which began few years back. I was doing a comparative study in some different schools, and as a Buddhist, I'm a Buddhist, so as a Buddhist I believe like our children are very patient, very compassionate, you know. So I was like interested to conduct a survey, and I've given this questionnaire to the middle school students. My topic was an emotional safety. Are the children feeling physically safe, emotionally safe in schools? This is the question. So I wanted to know this. So then I done the survey, and after the survey, I found that 80 to 90% of the children, the questionnaire responded saying the authorities are very much concerned about their movement, falling down from the bed, playing in the ground. And then when I got to the next point, are they emotionally safe? When I come to that question, then I saw that the respondent, 75% of the students says they doesn't feel emotionally safe. They have some problems. Their problems need to be addressed more technically into the Buddhist point of view. Then today when I got a chance to attend the Sea Learning program, the workshop, then I felt like, yes, the tools are there. Yes, the techniques are there. This is what we can apply in our schools to bring out the students' problems and make them a better individual, a better happy students in them, and then to have a holistic development. So that urgency came to me some years back, and today I'm very grateful to my organization. I'm very grateful to everyone for giving me a chance to get this experience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Can
you.
we direct our questions, Krista, to Rosalind and maybe Mridul, because they have
Yes,
been
absolutely.
really, really fantastic and actively listening what's happening. So can you?
Yes,
Yeah.
I will. So how many of you are looking forward to using Sea Learning after this event? You're going back to your school or your organization?
Only
Wonderful.
those will get
Okay,
lunch tomorrow
great.
if they are not implemented.
And if you're not, you should, right? This last question is hopefully aimed just for you, those of you who are thinking, I want to use this, what can I do next? And what we'd like to do is ask our teacher panelists what advice you might have, you could give to those of you, those of our audience members here and people started with the Sea Learning curriculum, how to implement, what advice would you give? And Midrul, please.
First of all, I will be borrowing from what yesterday also the teacher panelists discussed. First of all, you should be able to identify your own context and strength of the school. And most of us as teachers or as program coordinators know it. The second thing which has worked very well for Tonglen, and all my children were here as testimonials, is that the more time or the more space you give for children to get into embodied experience, to immerse themselves into these experiences, not just within the classroom, but outside of it. It does two things. Number one is obviously they enhance so many of their other skills, like my children mentioned their leadership skills or management skills, etc., which are, like added advantages of Sea Learning. But the other thing that it does is that it gives these children a sense of that they are important players in bringing about a change in the society. And that's the whole point. His Holiness says that probably we will not see the entire result of a new generation or world peace or harmony. but these children would be able to see, the next generation would be able to see. So right now is the time when we give them these tools that they start identifying themselves as, yes, we are the change makers, like this one girl said. And I'm so humbled by her experience where she says, this one little act of kindness can change the world. So giving them more and more space to do that and explore that, getting into these embodied experience, going out and working in the community, working for dogs or doing little things for anyone around, I think that is very good for children. And as teachers, it shows the impact. Like it gives you an incentive that, okay, my children have developed this project, and it just gives you so much incentive and motivation to work hard. So when you are implementing SCE learning, leave lots of space, or as much as your school allows, for this embodied experience to happen, for these projects to develop, come out of class agreements and everything. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And we'll be addressing our pedagogical model a little bit later, but sort of the last step in that is this embodied understanding. So we have information that we convey and direct instruction that happens, and then learning experience which can spark critical insights or aha moments that students might have. And then through their own discernment and practice and application in their own life, then they can gain what we call this embodied understanding, which is deeply knowing something for yourself to be true and having it become a part of who you are and how you interact in the world. So that's what you were saying here, is to allow for that process to take place and give the time and space for that.
Also, another thing I want to add is that please have this, I don't know what is the right word for it, but this sort of exchange or reflection loop in the school. Like if there are project coordinators and there are some administrators and there are teachers, so it shouldn't be that, okay, so you two teachers are supposed to take care of the SE learning program and go ahead, I believe in you. There should be a feedback loop. What I mean to say is that even these teachers, because their well-being is also very crucial, they should have this place or this space for to get together, to exchange ideas and to share their own problems and obstacles. So this feedback loop is very important. And a lot of people from the administration can come in. This will create a compassionate school. So even people from, I believe, even people from accounts or people who are taking care of so many other things can also be involved in these feedback loops.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to answer the question, a piece of advice that you would give?
So C-learning, you can't do it just for the sake of doing it. You have to do a personal practice. What I feel that anybody who's implementing C should practice it with self to, do it with children. So it's not just you pick up an activity and you do it. You apply it with your own self. For example, resourcing. I have to figure out resourcing for myself. What makes me happy? Is it my pet dog who makes me happy? And then only, I can have such a discussion with my children. So I think self-practice is must when you're doing C-learning.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else? Pass it down.
Rosalind would like to share something. You too.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to give some advice. So kind of like what the student said to you when you were stuck in the high zone, take a breath, breathe. And then if you're an administrator or a principal, really modeling, as everyone has said, these practices or these character traits, because children pick up on your presence. And I think someone spoke about that earlier. And so just saying what everyone else has said, I think that's been the biggest thing for me, is I don't have to say anything. It's just they kind of feel what I've embodied, and they model after me. So just be aware of yourself. So.
Thank you. Barbara, would you like to share?
So if any of you just want to, are inspired and think, okay, I'm going to do that, I think that's great. The one thing that I didn't consider much in the beginning was the parents, actually. And it might scare them at first. That's what happened in my school. I had some feedback from parents. They were kind of like, oh, this is Buddhism. This is religious. We don't want our kids to have religion in school. And that's just one point to consider, that there could be fear. And I think, or how I responded was to actually really listen and to ask back, like, what's the fear, what is it exactly, and find some common ground and invite them in, like, come and see, come to my classes. And I had this one mom last week who was coming, and at the end she said, you know, I was critical at the beginning, but I wanted to come see because it's my daughter's favorite subject. And she was with us, and she laughed with us, and she had a really good time, and she thought, okay, I'm glad it's not Buddhism. So I would really encourage to just consider that, to keep that in mind, that they're going to do research, they're going to go online and find the connection to the Dalai Lama, and that might scare people, just to keep that in mind.
Thank you.
Just one more thing, if anybody's considering the C program, just consider how connected you would be to different people around the school. Most importantly, the kids, the students, and then it goes up. I think it will seep into the parents, and of course the admin is always the support. So it's just nice to be in a school or in a setting where there is connectedness, when people understand each other, when we're talking a similar language, a language we were born with, but a long time and a long space lost a little bit of its value, and things got a little bit fuzzy. So I just really love the connectedness and how involved you would be with every student. And I think you guys had a great example of that. Well done.
Thank you so much. Would you like to share something?
1 minute.
I just encourage the entire school to embrace the entire experience. I think the way we've created advisory groups with one teacher per 10 students creates a very compassionate classroom, an intimate, safe place for students to share and be open. And like many people have said, it can be a time for the students to be vulnerable and to learn some new skills that they'll bring into their everyday classes. But in our school, every faculty meeting starts with a mindful moment to center themselves and be present. And our students request it. I'm a math teacher. I can't always talk about these. You know, it doesn't naturally come up to talk about the compassion towards the numbers. But what we could say is before a test, pay attention to your sensations and what are your skills to calm yourself down and to focus and to be in your resiliency zone. And the resiliency zone was the biggest hit with our students because it was a visual model and they can identify immediately when they're not in that resiliency zone and when they're not going to learn. So as a teacher, I can also recognize that student isn't misbehaving because they want to make my life really hard. They're misbehaving because they don't have the tools to get into their resiliency zone. And I just feel like our school has changed so much, and I really am very proud that we have embraced it as an entire community.
Thank you. Thank you
I
so
think
much.
we have to wrap up, I think.
Yeah, we are actually out of time.
I just have last question for Krista.
Yes.
And maybe those who want extra lunch voucher, if you have an answer. The country that we live in, we love spices, we love scale, and we love standardization. Now that C curriculum has been launched in India, I want to understand from you, Krista, if a teacher or educator who is sitting there would like to understand what kindness looks like. How do you define kindness? And if they have to give 2 marks for kindness or compassion, because I'm sure they would be eager, right? Because they are going to go and assess children on kindness. That's what we have been doing. So what do you think, would be a perfect answer for that?
A perfect answer for what is kindness is... There is no perfect answer. Our curriculum and our teachers explore the issues of compassion, kindness, and systems thinking, mindfulness, attention, awareness, engagement. All of these things, we explore them through our curriculum. And it's not that we're looking for a perfect answer. The perfect answer is through the relationships that we create with each other and discernment that we have around being our own ethical values and living those values out in the world, and how we can, be a good person. And so that is maybe slightly different in different contexts, different areas. And so it's the exploration together that we think is most important.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So those who have perfect answer, please meet us or give the voucher back.
Thank you so much. Educators, please stay seated. We're going to invite Elaine Miller-Karras to come up to stage. And Brendan? Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Krista and Vivek, for moderating that wonderful panel. Thank you to our educators. We have now Elaine Miller-Karras, who's one of the senior program advisors for C Learning, who's going to lead us in a group activity. The resiliency zone in Chapter 2 of the curriculum was mentioned. The entire Chapter 2 of the curriculum is based on the work of Elaine, and she is the primary author of that entire chapter, along with our school teachers who assisted with the curriculum writing, because of her expertise in working in trauma and resilience skills. And many of the educators we've worked with around the world have said that the educators and children find Chapter 2 to be their favorite chapter because it's so hands-on and so helpful. So we're extraordinarily grateful to Elaine for generously giving of her many decades of research and work, and freely offering this material to us for our program so that we can then offer it freely around the world. So we're incredibly grateful to you, Elaine. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Brendan. Oh my, I am so humbled to be here, and I have to say, after hearing the teachers, I mean, they are living in the classroom ideas that I had many years ago, and it's much for what you're doing with the children. And one of the things that I want to just comment about is, wasn't it amazing to hear their humility? That a student can say, hey, I think you're in your high zone, and go, oh my gosh, I am, and maybe I need to do something about it. So what we're hoping to do for the next few minutes is I'm going to share with you some of the skills. We already did with the youth panel, but one of the key concepts is how we sense our body. And so we call it tracking or reading the nervous system. And we really want all of you to have that experience. Hopefully you did a little bit when I asked you the questions when we were doing the movement with the children. But when people ask me, Elaine, what in the heck do you do around the world? I say, well, I think I go around the world helping people discern the difference between sensations of distress and sensations of well-being. Because once you can discern that, then you have a choice of what you will pay attention to. And as you pay attention to sensations of well-being, and we know this through neuroscience, is that the brain cells that fire together wire together. And so then we are dipping into our well of resilience, and it is expanding and expanding and expanding. And I think that's what we hear from the children, and we certainly have heard it from the teachers. But it's also really important to know that this is not an us versus them, this is a we. And we all can experience our well-being, and no matter where you are as you walked into this room today or where you're listening from around the world, you can absolutely expand your resilience and your sensations of well-being. And we heard about neuroplasticity, because isn't it amazing that the brain can change? And no matter where we've been, we don't have to stay in that distress because we're designed for well-being. So, one of the best ways that I have found to learn about the sensations of well-being is through the second skill that we called resourcing. And resourcing, the question that I often ask, and I'm going to ask all of you this question right now, because I'm going to ask you to actually think about what I ask you, and then I'm going to ask you to bring your experience inside your body to notice the sensations connected to the question I'm going to ask you. So a resource can be anything. It can be your favorite pet that I heard from one of you. It can be your beliefs. It can be your compassion, your kindness. For me, it can be my granddaughter, who's 2.5, who I adore, whose name is Madison. It can also be my husband. It can be almost anything. So what I'd like you to do for a moment is think about what uplifts you, what calms you, what brings you peace. Think about just one thing. Maybe you have many things that you cultivate in your life, but for just a moment, to think about one thing. But as you think about one thing, I want you to think about your coloring a picture, and you're going to put details into it. For example, if I tell you about my granddaughter, she's 2.5. She has a wonderful wild curly hair. She loves to come up to me with her hands waving in the air and say, "Nana, Nana, Nana." And as I'm saying this and coloring a bigger picture of her, oh my gosh, I don't know if you can see in front. I have this sense of well-being that floods me from my head to my toe. I can feel my whole nervous system relax, and notice this rhythm I'm doing with my hands. That's a spontaneous movement that actually is calming my body. So for just a moment, I'm going to be silent, and I'm going to ask you to think about one thing that uplifts you, that brings you peace or brings you calm, and to color that picture for yourself. As you've expanded the picture, I'm going to invite you to notice the sensations connected to that image. And be aware of what's happening to your breath, your heart rate, your muscles. Are they relaxing or not? There's no right or wrong way to sense your body. Some of the sensations may be pleasant. There can actually be a little fluttering of unpleasant sensations as well. And they can be neutral. No weight to them. So just take a few more moments to notice the sensations connected to your resource. As I'm looking around the room, I also notice some people yawning, which is such a lovely thing for me to see from up here, because the nervous system has this wonderful design, and when we become more relaxed, we sometimes yawn. So you may notice some yawning. You also may know, oh my goodness, I just saw a huge yawn to my left. You also may notice some tingling or even a little vibration, because as our nervous system calms, it has a reaction. And so we just notice those sensations of release, and that's what we call them, release sensations. Okay. Right. So just take a few more moments to bring your attention to those sensations that are neutral or pleasant. And when you're ready, you can redirect your attention to my voice or to the room. I also want you to be aware of that I didn't request or invite to close your eyes. So what we've learned about working with sensation is that sometimes when people close their eyes, they have a sensation, especially if they had a lot of trauma, to have a traumatic flashback. So we invite, you can open or close your eyes, whichever is the most comfortable for you. So that sometimes is a little different about how we've learned other practices. Okay. All right. So that's tracking, reading your nervous system. There's a concept in neuroscience called interoception. And interoception is our awareness of our state inside of our body, our sensations. And some of the research that is coming up about interoceptive awareness is that those of us that can do it actually have better what they call affect regulation, where we can control our emotions better. So even if you
you had a little trouble sensing your body, don't despair, because with practice you can learn better interoceptive awareness, and then there can be the cascade of being able to manage your emotions in a different way. All right, so there's one more skill that I'd like to introduce to you, and it's called grounding, which many of you have grounded before, I think. But this is one that I do with children all over the world, and you maybe have done it already as well, and I'm going to invite the teachers to do it as well, because we've been sitting for a very long time. I'm going to invite you to stand if you'd like. It's always an invitation. And we're going to ground like a tree. And so I want you all to know that you can be any tree that you would like. You can be a palm tree. You can be an oak tree. You can be a very small tree or a very large tree. You can be a tree with branches or not. So you get to create your very, very own tree. Oh my goodness, people are already doing it. I can see it as we go around the room. So I'm going to invite you first to notice whatever you notice in your body right now, because some of you are already moving. Some people like to notice their branches first. Some people want to notice their feet and maybe how they're rooted to the ground. So I'm giving you absolutely every option in the world in how you'd like to experience your body right now. So just let your body move in whatever way that it wants to as you bring forth an image of the tree. And I'm going to invite all the teachers to do this, of course, with me. Would you like to do this with me? I would really like to do it as well. I'm going to feel my feet first, and notice what happens when you start sensing your body, but really sense into your trunk. Oh, can you sense into your trunk? Yes. And let the arms move. I think we have enough space. Just don't hit your neighbor. Oh, and just sense your branches. Oh my goodness, it's just can you see all the branches in the room? It just looks so beautiful as we're looking at the branches. But then also, I'm going to invite you to move your body, because maybe there's a sweet, nice breeze, a warm breeze. And we can just notice that our body can be there, and the breeze kind of comes through, and we can still, I hope I'm going to invite you to sense the strength of your tree, no matter how tall, no matter how small, how wide, or how thin. It's your particular tree. And then notice, again, the sensations inside your body. I'm going to ask the teachers in a minute what they noticed when we're done. All right, so just really sense into your whole body. Again, just noticing every part that's pleasing to you. And then when you're ready, I'm just going to invite you to sit back down again. I want to make sure I don't run over my time. But I have 6 minutes left, all right. Oh, good, I have 6 minutes left that I can ask the teachers. All right. Oh my goodness, look at the nice, as I look around the room, oh, there's yawns and smiles. Oh my goodness. Teachers, so let me know. I'm going to debrief with you, I understand. Who would like to make a comment about anything? The first 3 skills. All right.
So the first experience where you asked us to think about a memory or something that makes you happy. So I was really feeling cold because of the AC. And the moment I thought about my dog, of course, I started feeling very warm. And the coldness was really
changed.
Yeah, so I was feeling comfortable with my body, and I could feel the warmness in my body. I could feel tingling sensations on my thighs and in my chest.
In your chest.
Yeah.
And what are you noticing now as you're telling me about it? Can you notice the same sensations now or not? Has it?
Yes.
You can?
Yes.
Well, can I just invite you to notice that as you've described a little bit about your dog to us? Yes. Look at that smile.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Anyone
you.
else? Okay, Yasmin.
All right. This afternoon had lots of sensations going on. Just before honestly, just before the teacher panel, I couldn't stay still. I felt really cold and I was really not feeling myself. So I decided to stand. And when I stood against the wall. And that, powerful somehow, when they were going through the similar feeling. And actually, I got that idea from them, to be honest. And then when you had asked us to think about a pleasant sensation, that was really lovely, because now that I'm on stage and I thought, well, that's almost over. and I had the chance to revisit the sensations. There was a very, very warm feeling in my chest.
Right here in your chest.
And
do you notice how your hand is to your heart?
Yes.
So I'm just going to invite you to notice that. We've seen this all over the world when people talk about this warmth and the warmth in their body. When they touch their hand right here. Have you seen this? Look at, you see? That also we experience it sometimes as deeper. Is that what you're experiencing, Yasmin? I don't want to put...
Yes. And I also feel the body warmth, and it usually shows, and that's why I always have a scarf hiding this part, because I do get very red. And what's so nice about the Sea Learning, and is especially Chapter 2, it humbles you down. It humbles you down to a sense where it's okay to talk about your emotions, and it's okay to be human, and it's okay as a teacher, as a child, as anybody, to feel these sensations.
Yes.
And it's very liberating at the same time, just to be able to be so transparent.
Thank you, Yasmin. And one of the things I want to kind of end with, because I think my time is almost up, is that every thought, feeling, and belief has a corresponding sensation in the body. And when we learn to read our nervous system, like we can think about those things that give us joy and notice the sensations, it actually deepens the experience. And I think that was a beautiful example of that, Yasmin. Thank you so much. And thank you all teachers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elaine, for that wonderful instruction and experience. Thank you so much to our wonderful teachers. Amazingly, this is just a selection of the hundreds of teachers who have been using Sea Learning in their classrooms around the world. But thank you so much. I'd like to invite you to accept another round of applause, and then if you would take your seats. What we have next is our last segment of the afternoon session. We're going to have a question and answer session. So I'm sure you have many thoughts, comments, questions. I'd like to invite our Sea Learning team up. So we'll invite the Sea Learning team, the core team, and Elaine back so that you can address your questions to any of them. And we also have with us Jennifer Knox, who is herself a teacher who uses the Sea Learning in her school, and she's the Sea Learning liaison and coordinator for her school, Woodward Academy in Atlanta, Georgia. But she is also a member of the Sea Learning team and has helped develop the program from the beginning and has been a key curriculum writer for the program. While you're thinking of your questions, and by the way, we have two stationary microphones here, one in this aisle and one in that aisle there. So what we're going to ask is if you walk up to one of the microphones, and then we will call on you. So I see some people raising their hands, but if you walk over to one of the microphones, there's one right here, and there's one right there. There are microphones on stands. That's how we'll take the questions. So while you're thinking of your question, I'd like to invite Ms. Knox to say a few words about what we've seen today, and also perhaps a bit about her experience as being both a curriculum writer for Sea Learning and a teacher using it.
Good afternoon. How is everyone? Good.
So, one of the things that I've been thinking about since arriving this morning is this deep connection between our context of Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States, where Emory is located, and India. And a recent experience that I had was to the Center for Civil and Human Rights in downtown Atlanta, Georgia. And there at the center, there is a Morehouse College archive exhibit, which is the college where Martin Luther King Jr. Went to school. Martin Luther King Jr. was born in Atlanta in 1929, and he lived in Atlanta throughout his youth and into college. And one of the objects that I came across in this exploration of the archives, which contained many of his speeches with handwritten notes on the side, was actually a tiny little unfolded piece of paper, and it was quite torn and tattered around the edges. There were creases in it. The writing was in Martin Luther King Jr.'s actual hand, and it was a quote from Mahatma Gandhi, who, as most of you know, was instrumental in MLK's work. And this quote said the following: "Gandhi speaks for us. In the midst of death, life persists. We are today in the midst of death and darkness. We can strengthen life and live by our own personal actions, by saying no to violence, by saying yes to life." Yeah. So as I was looking at this tiny little sacred object, this artifact of Martin Luther King's, I imagined, why is it that he has this in his wallet, you know? How long was it there? When did he pull it out to remind himself? An ally who he never got to meet, but whose students he connected with when he and his wife, Coretta Scott, came here in June of 1959, which happens to be the same year that His Holiness made his treacherous journey from Tibet to this country. So as I'm thinking of all of these ideas and concepts and how the old wisdom of ancient India is being asked to be activated mindfully by His Holiness, I also am reminded of the fragility of someone who we've come to know as a tremendous leader, and Martin Luther King Jr., and having this tiny little piece of paper as a reminder. And I think one of the aspects of this work is coming to listen to a similar process in the lives of the students with whom I work. They have such wisdom, as evidenced by the children who you just saw here on this panel. And I'm actually going to read a few of their insights that I jotted down, because they don't sound like child insights from an abstract point of view. So, one child says, "My pain and suffering brought out everyone's compassionate side. A lot of us suffer from not feeling good about ourselves. I began to judge myself not by exams' beauty, but how I make kind acts. One action can change the world. One action to allow me to go to school did change the world. I think we do a small act, and one day we change the world. After some time passes, everyone gets back to normal. We need more than one day. I became aware of what others are going through instead of how I am feeling in the moment. I think of how they are feeling. I brought in a street dog and I gave it food. I helped a woman. I cleaned the environment of Dharamsala. I always think about my brothers. I still think of my brothers, even though he has skills now. So these little moments over time of teaching C learning are the moments that one starts to attune to, one starts to see the richness of, and one starts to shine the light on. Because those are the little pieces of insight that can be written on a little scrap of paper and placed in one's bag and saved for another time. So I think what I'll do is invite Brendan back to help us moderate. Thank you for listening to my story.
Thank you, Jen. We'll take the first question here, and then we'll go back and forth, if that's all right. Please, sir.
Good evening. My name is Vikas Jain. I am founder of The Real Education, which works on primarily learnability. C-learning is the need of the hour. As we work on self-learning, I saw the manual which is given in the hand guide is written for teachers. So do we also have self-study material for someone who want to learn C-learning on his or on her own?
The companion book, is the companion in the back? Oh, the companion book would be the place to start for an adult who wanted to learn C-learning for themselves. There's the framework in there. The first half of the companion book is the framework, and the second half is implementation for schools. So for an adult who wanted to learn C-learning, the framework would be the first place to go for that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'll just add, we have here our international partners from Korea, Venerable Hyeju and others. And she shared with us a while back that they created a study group, and they're actually reading through the materials. As adults, they're reading through the materials, studying them, discussing them, deepening their understanding. And that's a very wonderful idea that I think others could also share. Please.
Hello, my name is Dee, and my question is about the teachers. I heard that the teachers have to do some personal work themselves. I'd like to know how this has been brought into a school system and how systemic it has been made, or is it only when they are planning for a lesson, or because if a teacher is not experiencing stillness or compassion for themselves, then how are they going to bring that into a classroom? So, and how are we only working with children, or how are we going to work with teachers to see that this is made more sturdy?
I'll start answering that question, and then we see if anyone else on the panel. So my understanding is your question was around how we can work with teachers and help support teachers in learning the C-learning program, and also levels of implementation, if it's just at a classroom level or if we do something more systemic school-wide?
Whether there's something parallelly happening with teachers as well, so that it's not just in preparation for class that they focus on the ideas, but then they're working on themselves as well parallelly.
Yes, so around the personal development of educators themselves. Yes, thank you for asking that question. We feel this is a really important part of C-learning, and we have been doing workshops with educators, which also the approach there has actually been to introduce all of the skills and the tools to educators themselves, to get them to reflect on those skills and tools and consider which one of those might be helpful for themselves, both in their personal lives and in an educational setting, and to really get the experience of it. And we think that's very important because, as I often say when I do educator training, we teach who we are. We teach who we are. So who we are is very important, and developing our own C skills are very important as well. So we believe in that deeply. Part of our educator online platform that we are developing, and which hopefully you can access very soon, introduced tomorrow. Thank you. It will lead educators through 7 different modules about C-learning, but through that process, we're asking you as an educator to try out some of the new tools and strategies and then reflect on them yourself as well. So yes, we feel that's a very important part of the program. Does anyone else want to speak to it?
Thank you. I'd like to add just a little bit sort of related to what I was just speaking about, that there's a bit of a personal practice that evolves where one starts to begin to ask oneself questions. And those questions are certainly appropriate for one's own context. But for me, those specific questions are, what am I doing with my body? What am I doing with my actions? What am I doing with my words that cultivates a compassionate community and environment for the child? So first of it's meeting their needs. But in doing so, I think that constant check-in will allow that personal growth to evolve over time. So in addition to the structure, I think there are some very specific ways that we hope to engage each of you in a process of self-inquiry, which will drive the awareness and then the intrinsic motivation and conviction to change one's own behaviors, similar to what we're asking of the children.
Thank you. We have a question from this side.
Hi, my name is Sangeeta Bose-Tagore-Anand, and I'm a youth wellness advocate. And firstly, congratulations for creating this platform for very positive collective consciousness and allowing us all to be a part of it, for creating a better world. So thank you all. My question is basically, I see that your module is related to the constraints of a school curriculum. How much of a good fit do you think it is for, independent workshops, because it has a wider outreach? And for a person like me who's not a certified teacher, so to speak, it's much easier to reach out to people on an independent level. Do you think it's feasible with the syllabus that you have?
Are you asking about workshops for adults or with children?
For both. I think the adults need it more, frankly.
So, and I can say that the framework which we've referred to, which is contained in the C-Learning Companion, which everyone received in their bag, this is a general framework.
Okay.
So it's for all age levels. If you read the framework carefully, you'll see that, for example, in the systems thinking section, it talks about how we can do things with little kids, 5, 6, 7 years old. And then it talks about quantum physics and very complex modeling. So the framework is designed for 0 to 100 or 120, ages 0 to 120, So that can be adapted, into many, many different contexts. And as I believe Krista said, even the curriculum, although it's designed for children, those activities, we've always found that activities that work well with children work even better with adults sometimes, So, you can draw from these materials and explore in that way.
And I'll just add that as far as teaching outside of the regular school day, I am teaching C-Learning after school with Miss Rosalind Duff, who is on the teacher panel. So I go one day a week to the school, and that's our only interaction. So it is definitely possible. Just have to figure out how the structure would be in place for your particular situation.
Thank you, that's really helpful. Thanks.
Yeah, on this side, please.
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, thank you very much for putting this together. This has been a very, very wonderful and informative day, and the start of something really wonderful. My name is Sandeep Nath, and I work in the space of energy and mindfulness coaching. I have a question about how you outreach the C-Learning program, because what I've been attempting to do with the private schools, or the public schools as you may call them, which is different from the NGOs, the non-government and the government schools that have been on stage. I've been trying to get across concepts of Reiki, Qigong, mindfulness, and I have been finding that the priorities of those schools, the administrations, are not really in line with creating time or understanding that you don't really need to create time, you just create more efficiency. I find that they're kind of closed to this. So maybe if there was somebody from India in this panel, they would understand how competitive our education system is and how we're just breeding automatons to work in BPOs, you know. But we want to change that. And I would like to know how to outreach and what materials e-learning can provide to educate the administrators and then on the teachers, the principals, and get the mechanism moving in the private and public schools.
Do you want to start? I'll follow up.
Yeah, I mean, you're asking one of the most important questions, of course. And the schools that we assess in are those in which, of course, not just the teachers, but the administrators have full commitment and full buy-in to the program. Even then, it takes time. It doesn't just instantly happen. It takes years. So one of the first schools that we worked in before it was called C Learning, before we had this curriculum, it's over 10 years ago we started working with that school. And one of the heads of that school, even just recently, when she was interviewed for this launch, said, yes, we're just beginning. You know, it's a part of a process. So I think it's one step at a time. The other thing I would say is that administrators and policy makers tend to listen to research, tend to pay attention to research. That's why we have such a strong commitment to that element.
We're going to address this a little bit more tomorrow when we talk about implementation. We have a session on that, but I'll just say briefly right now. It's very important that you clearly understand the problems and the issues that people experience on a daily basis at whatever school or organization you would be interested in bringing C Learning to. And we need to make the connection between the direct need of those with whom we want to do this work and the work that we're offering. Because it's not a simple thing, you know, it's not a quick thing, bring this in and then everything will be better. It does take commitment and time and passion for C Learning, you know. So making that connection so people can understand how the curriculum and the approach and the materials will facilitate you know, their own goals that they have. And there are goals beyond they want their students to do, you know, have academic success. That is one. But there are other hopes and goals to be unearthed and discussed, and perhaps having some conversations with them about what some of those hopes and goals might be and what some of their challenges might be with respect to those hopes and goals. Then we can clearly discern how C Learning might help them meet some of those goals and overcome some of those challenges. And that would increase the willingness of administrators or principals or organization heads to want to engage, you know, with the work. So that's one piece of advice I have.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
I look forward to
Thank you for your
tomorrow, and I look forward to putting this research together in a marketable package so that more people can take it forward.
Thank you. We need to do it, and we want to do it, and we don't have it for you right this moment, but we want to create a very brief a piece, something you can give to administrators or principals with the research explaining, with you know, these things in it for you. We know that would facilitate, you know, the process and the program getting out there. So thank you for that suggestion.
Happy to help.
Thank you. Excellent question.
Namaste. My name is Divya. I'm from Goa Institute of Management. It is rather a comment than a question. The girl on the student panel, she spoke about the self-worth. So her point on the questioning on self-worth made me reflect on some of the points. One point which came is our inner voices of self-doubt. Most of the time, our inner voices, or if we recognize our emotional state, so when so intensity of emotions happen in retrospect, and mostly it happens with the negative emotions. So what I found that more than the awareness, yes, it is important to acknowledge the emotional state, but more than that, we need to have tools, provide tools how to control those things. And I'm sure, like, recently that resourcing and grounding, that simple exercise has given me so much so to reflect and like simple sensation. So I could feel that there was numbing in my fingers. So I think more and more such tools, because I'm not dealing with the primary or the middle, I'm dealing with the postgraduate students. So, I would also like to welcome such curriculum level. And the last thing that I personally feel the biggest fear of our lives is LKK. LKK is Log Kya Kahenge, what people will say. The moment we stop thinking about what people will say and do what we like, I think, that happiness and the compassion, which the core of the C learning is bound to happen. Thank you so much for a wonderful session and look forward to tomorrow also.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
I do want to say, as I mentioned, the framework is for all levels of education, and we do have plans. We are developing at Emory an undergraduate program. We have plans for professional and graduate schools too. I see my friend and colleague, Professor Tony Simons here from Cornell University. He's developing a management course for MBA students. So, there are people also working at that level thinking about this. You will take a question on this side?
Good afternoon. My name is Mikkel Bjelke. I'm from Denmark, working for the government, doing curriculum development, implementation, and evaluation. I was very delighted to hear this morning the experiences of the teachers and the students, and I noticed two components that I would like to explore a bit further with you. And one of them was relating to the questions that was asked earlier about the personal development of the teachers. And so I'm curious about not only the personal development as a part of the endorsement or the first training, but also the continuous development of the teachers. The framework that you have created is a very accessible framework, and you can say it's easy to embark on, but it's also a lifelong journey. So how do you support the teachers in their lifelong journey to understand and explore the framework continuously? That was the first component, and the other component is the extent to which the C learning program is structuring the whole school environment. We heard today that one of the students were asking for not just one class a week, but more classes, and I read in your curriculum that it's not just a class, it's an approach to education, and so I'm curious about how you infuse the whole environment with the C learning approach. Thank you.
Thank you, Mikkel. They want me to take the first part, but I can only remember the second part of your question.
The first part was about the
personal development. Yes, it's very important. So, there are many different aspects to that. So tomorrow morning we'll be showing the basic orientation course for educators, which will be a free online course. But this first course will be supplemented with additional courses that will deal with specific parts of the curriculum, not just how to teach it, but how to cultivate those skills for oneself. So this is very important, but we didn't want to start heavily with the personal development side because many teachers are very first oriented towards their students, and rightly so. Once they start teaching it, however, they start to inevitably pick up the skills from the students themselves. So their journey of personal development inevitably kind of starts because they're doing the activities. If you look at the curriculum, these are very constructivist activities that are classroom-based, group-based activities. So the teacher has to kind of see what's happening, So we try to kind of light the spark in that way. But then, we also want to, we have a facilitator training program that we're just starting to develop. And we also want to create learning communities, local learning communities. So we have various ideas.
And just to add to that, the idea also is to eventually have C Learning be a component of teacher education programs with university programs. So it begins there. And I mean, if you think about it, maybe in 20 years we'll have children who've gone through C-learning in K-12 starting university to become a teacher, and they'll have C-learning in their teacher education program. So it's a long-term goal. And your other question was about implementation as a culture and climate on the school level. I'll hand it over to you.
So culture and climate at the school level is very important. And of course, we would love for C-learning approach to be consistent from the classroom level to, all the way up through the entire school level, how the school is run, the relationships within the school building, how people interact with one another and are inclusive in decision making, and taking a approach to disciplinary practices as well, which are kind and compassionate, but still have boundaries and expectations of respect and things like that help a school run well within the context of kindness and compassion. So we will be fleshing that out a bit more as we go along to articulate some of those practices of an entire school, which we feel fit very well with the C-learning approach. But we also are open to those of you who are doing, some of our schools have already gone ahead and done that. They've gone to the next level, and we're open to hearing how you've done that and what practices are working really well at the whole school level. Some of our schools are involving the community as well in C-learning, and so we would love to hear those stories, and that would help us also build sort of a compendium of best practices that we could then share with others across the globe, because some of this is contextual and cultural in nature. Of course, if we were to come up with something, if I was to come up with it personally, it would be probably too US oriented, because that's a lot of my embedded experience. So we need also your sharing and ideas. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm afraid, I feel guilty because I see so many people standing, but I'm afraid we're nearly out of time. So we just take the last two questions, and if you could be very brief with your questions. But all of these individuals, you can be free to ask them questions. And also right after this, we have the World Fair. And so several of us will be over there. We have displays from several of our partners around the world. And many of them will be standing by their displays. So it's a time for us to have tea and converse a little bit. So if we take the last, just one question here and one question here. Briefly, the first people, unfortunately.
Okay.
Please, sir.
So, my name is Dr. Pankaj Gupta, and I am the president of IHMR University in Jaipur. We also have a center for mindfulness, happiness, and ethics. And we have been having this experiment of building this kind of whole curriculum for our students, who are mainly the medical doctors and who are doing an MBA program, because students go for serving in different hospitals. So the bhav of seva, that how to build that basic culture of compassion and seva within them. And for that we have been using the old ancient technique of the Gan, Gyan and Dhyan. There is an aura of music, then meditation, and sort of an inner journey. So I'm really at this moment not fully sure that how is the operational mechanism for delivering the C-learning curriculum. But the thing is very clear that one is a right brain and one is a left brain. And a combination is very much needed. And therefore the ancient philosophy, if you look at our, the goddess Saraswati, she has a veena, that is a gan. Then there is a pustak, that is gyan. And there is a mala, that is meditation, that is dhyan. So in the ancient system, there was already a combination of these things. And it was not about the doing and having, but the being part, that who you are being. Like nobody can define a KRA of a mother, or the responsibilities can be defined, but the role cannot be defined. So for that, you need to have more aware teachers. And my question is that when you create such very aware individuals, whether the student or a teacher, then there is a problem with the society, because they want to feed in this way and that way. So I feel that that will be a big problem. So how do you feel that that problem can be handled? Because the whole world is, is still enjoying in fear and greed. And you tell that, okay, you are happy and satisfied right now, right here. So you need not to be that way. So it is a big culture shift for the welfare of the whole world. So I believe that the sustainability, we need not to teach that, but the sustainable heart we need to develop. And also techniques like heartfulness, mindfulness, these are very, very important. So they should be integrated in the C learning, and especially at the higher level. I also teach in University of Washington in Seattle as a...
Okay, if I could just, as I mentioned, we don't have time, so...
Sure. So but these things are very relevant,
Yes,
so I just thought to share
you
with
raised some very good points. Appreciate it. Perhaps we can have further discussion also. If you just take the last question from this side, and then we'll allow our panelists to respond.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm Vaijayanti Shankar from Center for Science of Student Learning. You can hear me?
Yes, it's a little difficult because the doors are opening, so there's a lot of ambient
We don't
noise.
have, and we don't have sound monitors up here, so you have to speak a
I'll
little
try
closely.
to be a little louder. So I'm Vaijayanti Shankar from Center for Science of Student Learning. So basically we do a lot of research and our expertise is in diagnostic learning assessments. We do large-scale assessment surveys, partnering with the ministries, the governments, both in India as well as other countries outside India. For the last 4 years, we have been doing a lot of work on understanding social emotional learning and how to diagnose and how to build assessment tools related to that, So in that sense, we have gone through almost all the frameworks that exist, and I can understand from the work that you have presented today how deep you have gone in. I mean, we are also largely influenced by Peter Salovey or Daniel Goleman, etc. My question is that currently, based on all this last 4 years of research, we have developed a battery of tools. And we understand that when you start assessing or measuring whether something is happening or not, in terms of whether these skills exist in school children, there's a lot of culture, context, and language which comes into play, and also the age levels and so on. So we have looked at all of that and come up with a very good set of tools, which we have piloted on large scale in Rajasthan last year. And this year, as I'm talking now, we have just collected data collection all across Andhra Pradesh, Rajasthan and Jharkhand, and private schools also. So in that sense, we are putting together this large battery of data that exists on how children perceive cognitive and affective skills. When I say cognitive and affective skills, it includes social emotional learning, whether it's a feel effect or managing emotions, relationships, etc., attitudes, school climate, and learning outcomes. So one thing particularly want to ask is that as we are doing this large-scale data collection across India and looking at different types of school system, private, government, etc., it came to my mind, since you have already started working, you have C-learning happening in schools across in this country and outside, whether will you be willing to participate in a study like ours, where we can also see whether there are variations in this data. And this data set is so rich that we are now looking at bringing in neural networks and other types of mechanisms to figure out what is happening. In fact, Professor Rob, who was there in the morning panel, is also one of our advisors. So just wanted to check that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
the answer is yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
The answer is yes.
Research, as I mentioned, is a very important part of our program, and we're very interested in collaborating with research of many kinds. We'd love to talk with you more about that. So, please.
One
Okay.
last question.
Okay, but please, if you could keep it very brief.
It will be very quick. So my question is that I'm from Delhi Public School, Sonipat, and in our curriculum we don't have the practical understanding of terms like corruption or war. So how C-learning will help, because I belong to a family which is a refugee. We came from Pakistan. And we always have this hatred about terrorists and war and why such partition happened and what all were the implications of that. So how do you teach students to be compassionate in such scenario? That's my question, is because during my childhood I always have this feeling that why were we thrown out of our own country? And my question,
that is such a great question. How do we teach children compassion when they're going through all these things? I have to tell you that I didn't know this always, but I've learned through the Chapter 2 skills is that when children learn how to sense into their well-being, they become more compassionate towards themselves and towards others, even people who they've seen as the other, people who've bullied them, people who have even been responsible for destroying parts of their lives. So I know that seems kind of lofty could it be that simple?
sometimes less is more, so I would really encourage you to take a look at the curriculum. Take a look at those first 2 chapters to start, and you may see step by step, one child at a time, at how, we only need 10%, isn't that what we heard? And 10% of children can change the world. So take a look at that, okay? Yes.
Thanks, before we release you.
So many thanks to all of you for the great day today. I hope you found it profitable. And we have another great day lined up tomorrow, and we'll go deeper into some of these questions. And I'm sorry we didn't have enough time today to get through everyone's questions. And many thanks to our teachers and students who participated today, as well as my colleagues up here who I'm quite fond of. So a few quick housekeeping things. If you borrowed the headset for the translation, please drop it off on your way out so the batteries can be recharged and they'll be made ready again for tomorrow. And there is also in the World Fair, for those of you who are based here in India, there's going to be sort of a networking table out there where you can make some connection amongst yourselves. So, but please go and enjoy a cup of tea and talk to the educators and our team members who will be out there with you. So thank you very much. Have a great day.